Chris Thompson, and welcome to another edition of Chris Speaks. Today we're going to talk about white privilege. A lot of well-to-do white people, like Bill O'Reilly from Fox News, claim that white privilege doesn't exist. Well, first of all, what is white privilege? White privilege is the fact that people of Caucasian descent, the white race, whatever, are treated better by society and the system than minorities. And this is very obviously true. If you take a look around and you actually pay attention to what happens around you in this world. I mean, how many times do you see when a white guy gets stopped walking down the street by the cops, there's one police car. But if it's a black guy, there's like 5 police cars. It's white privilege thing that I'm not going to have 5 police cars come to me when they stop me from just walking down the street. White privilege is also the fact that I could drive a fancy car going down the street and not be pulled over by the police because they think I stole the car because I'm the wrong skin color to be driving a Ferrari. I have white privilege because if you notice, there's been several studies that show that a lot of jobs will pass by somebody's resume if they have a black or minority sounding name. And yeah, sure, there are states where there's affirmative action, but a lot of times the states aren't, or they're not enforced if people don't have the money to sue. And a lot of white people say, oh, well, they have an advantage because of this affirmative action. Well, the only reason there's affirmative action was because there's a white privilege to begin with. And a lot of people would say, well, now you could do away with affirmative action because things have changed. Well, I'd like to believe that, but there's an example of why this isn't true. Just 2 years ago, the Supreme Court repealed part of the Voters' Right Acts on redistricting in the South. And what it did, it kept the South from redistricting to make sure that each district they made had a majority of conservative voters. Well, how does this apply to race? Well, most minorities tend to vote Democrat. So if you make it to where every every area has a predominantly white, conservative denomination that are going to be voting, that means the conservatives are always going to be in power, and the conservatives usually are not even concerned with the minorities. They actually see them as a pest, something they have to deal with, something they have to try to find a way to appease. Of course, they never tend to. They always appease the right, homophobic, white, supremacist type people, the type of people that have their Bibles in one hand and their guns in the other, that don't like Mexicans, that don't like black people, that don't like gay people. And I mean, this is the whole thing to say that we don't have an advantage because we're white. I mean, we're not having a big amount of white people being killed by black cops, being unarmed and killed because they're white. And I mean, this is what's going on. You say, oh no, that's not why it is. Then why is the majority of these shootings that are happening when they're unarmed people, black people? And how come every time a black person is a victim, they're automatically a thug, and we put them on trial? We put them on trial even if the person that shot them isn't a police officer, but some idiot in Florida who's racist and had his own, put himself as the head of the neighborhood watch that nobody elected him to. I mean, it started back with that, with Zimmerman shooting Trayvon Martin. And he didn't even get charged until people made a big deal about it. And what did they do? They didn't put him on trial. They put Trayvon Martin on trial. Oh, he deserved to die because he freaking had marijuana in his system? Really? I mean, just to act like white privilege doesn't exist actually is an example of that you do have white privilege. That you're so privileged that you deny that it exists because you're so comfortable to have it and you don't think it's a bad thing. But it's not a bad thing for you, but it's a bad thing for minorities. Thank you. That's the end of this today's segment.